I didn't see the poison coming. I saw the smile, the plate, the bright pink napkins fluttering in the backyard breeze, while friends sang for my husband's birthday. I saw my sister-in-law's glittering eyes and heard her airy apology for the past. Then I saw my ex-brother-in-law turn pale and fold to the ground, his hand clawing at his throat. Sirens split the afternoon. Later, I would learn what was hidden in the food, meant for me and our unborn child. But long before the ambulance lights and the whispered word poison, there was a cold war that started the day I met Kayla. I was 22 and newly in love with Harry, a quiet, capable man who fixed things without being asked and believed feelings were worth naming. His parents welcomed me warmly. Kayla, his older sister, did not. At first, she was sugary compliments that felt like gauze wrapped too tight. Yet even then, she found ways to tug Harry backward into the arms of his past. At every family dinner, she would mention an ex by name, then casually announce an update about their brilliant new job or charming fiancé. She invited those exes to his parents' suppers, swearing each time it was a coincidence. When I posted photos on my public account, she was always the first viewer, then the first to complain to Harry that my clothes were indecent, though the photos were ordinary snapshots of workdays, gym mornings, or coffee after church. We laughed it off for a while. Not even laughter can protect you forever. When Harry and I got engaged, his parents popped champagne in the living room. Kayla stood stiffly, eyes shining with something that wasn't joy, then stormed out later, calling Harry, sobbing that she deserved the news first because she was the closest woman in his life. She sent me a message that read like a warning disguised as advice, rules for how I should treat her brother, reminders that she had always been there before. I left it on read and focused on choosing flowers. She noticed the ignoring. People like her always do. Kayla inserted herself into dress shopping and the bridal shower, offering critiques as if they were gifts. When I discussed centerpieces with my future mother-in-law, she laughed loud enough for the shop to hear and announced that my taste had no class. She told Harry he could do better. I finally told her she was no longer invited. She performed shock as though she'd been slapped, then called Harry to complain that I had humiliated her. He backed me without hesitation and told her she'd return only if she apologized. She did in text, and I chose silence over more drama. On our wedding day, the venue glowed in pinks and pastels, a gentle cloud of color that made the room feel like a dawn that wouldn't end. Kayla arrived in a black floor-length gown with a veil, visiting guests one by one, to mourn the loss of her brother to another woman. When Harry quietly asked her to stop, she accused me of being controlling. After she staged a second scene at the reception, my in-laws asked her to leave. We didn't speak for months after that. Sometimes peace is not reconciliation. Sometimes it's simply distance. Then, life tried to soften her. She miscarried with her boyfriend Jamie 2 years later. Grief rounded her voice. It made me kinder because I could not imagine that kind of emptiness without wanting to wrap anyone in blankets and soup and time. We let her visit our son Nate, who had arrived like sunlight after a storm. With him, she was gentle. With me, it didn't last. She returned to the grievance chorus, bad bosses, jealous friends, a world aligned against her, and she never took the stage without a villain, often me. That spring, she announced her wedding to Jamie and somehow didn't invite us. Her explanation was almost comic. She feared I'd ruin her day by wearing black the way she had it mine. Harry told her he wouldn't attend and wouldn't help pay unless she corrected herself. She cried, apologized, charmed, and won me over just enough that we came and smiled for photos. The marriage lasted months. One evening, she arrived with a suitcase and a sobbing heart. Harry and I gave her the guest room. She asked why I showered after early gym sessions, why I carried a change of clothes, why I liked my body the way I did. The questions felt forensic. At a family lunch, my mother-in-law mentioned a story about a divorce after infidelity, and Kayla pivoted, eyes bright, to ask if Harry and I had signed a prenup. When he said we hadn't, she smirked and announced that cheats abound, then implied I was meeting someone because I often had clothes in my bag. She even joked that maybe Nate wasn't Harry's son because he didn't look like him. Harry, calm, steady. Harry broke. He told her she had crossed a line no sister should approach, that she projected her chaos onto other people, that her cruelty was a canyon no apology could bridge. He apologized to Jamie and walked out without looking back at her for the first time in his life. We blocked her number that night. A year slid past like a good dream. Then 2 months ago, the test turned pink and our world expanded. We decided to announce at Harry's birthday, a backyard party at his parents' house with fairy lights tangled in the hedges and laughter softening the air. Kayla arrived uninvited, smiling wide, claiming therapy had wisered her, asking publicly to make amends. My in-laws offered to send her away. Harry chose civility, and I chose grace because the day wasn't about her. When we told everyone we were expecting, the crowd cheered. My mother cried. My father-in-law saluted Harry like a proud captain. Kayla's face went glassy. Minutes later, she glided to me with a plate and a bright voice. She wanted to serve me dinner herself, she said, for old time's sake, to make it right. The shrimp shimmered on the porcelain. I'm allergic. I set the plate aside to fetch another. Jamie wandered over, congratulated me, and asked if he could take the untouched food, since he loved shrimp. I said yes. 5 minutes later, he collapsed. The plate hit the ground with a sharp crack as Jamie's chair scraped back. He staggered, hand pressed to his throat, eyes bulging, and then he crumpled. For one long second, the party froze into a painting. Balloons, fluttering forks suspended. My breath caught in my ribs. Then chaos detonated. Someone screamed. My mother-in-law dropped her glass. Guests swarmed forward. Harry and Kayla knelt beside Jamie as his body convulsed. He can't breathe, a cousin shouted. My father-in-law barked orders, his military voice cutting through the panic. An ambulance was called. Sirens wailed closer with each heartbeat. I stood rooted, staring at the plate now smeared with food and broken porcelain. That plate had been mine. Kayla had placed it in my hands, smiling like she was turning a page. The truth drummed against my skull. I could have eaten it. Worse, our unborn baby could have been touched by whatever was in that food. My palms slicked with sweat. Harry rose, his face carved with dread, as paramedics rushed through the garden and lifted Jamie onto a stretcher. Kayla's sobs pierced the air. Guests murmured about allergies, food poisoning, bad shrimp. My gaze wouldn't leave the plate. I wanted to scream that it wasn't shrimp, that it wasn't chance, that Kayla had delivered it to me like a gift wrapped in poison. But my throat was a fist. That night, the house felt wrong, like a stage after the curtain falls. My in-laws insisted on sleeping over with us, fearful of leaving me alone while Harry paced holes into the carpet. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with relatives demanding updates. At the hospital, doctors confirmed Jamie had ingested something toxic, though it wasn't yet clear what. The police arrived to collect samples. I lay awake, shaking, haunted by the fact that I had passed the plate to Jamie instead of discarding it. If I had eaten even a bite, if the baby had been touched, my stomach churned and my chest seized tight. By dawn, I could no longer contain the truth. At breakfast, with Harry and my in-laws at the table, I admitted what had happened, that Kayla had given me the plate smiling, and that I had nearly eaten it before Jamie asked for it. Their shock mirrored my own. Harry's face shifted from confusion to fury as the words fell. My mother-in-law suggested checking the security cameras installed around the house, and we gathered around the app like jurors. The footage spoke louder than anything I could have invented. Kayla walking toward me with the dishmi, hesitating, Jamie taking it, then collapsing minutes later. The silence afterward was thick as tar. Harry's jaw flexed with rage. My in-laws looked hollowed out, their daughter's intentions made undeniable by the cold eye of a camera. The decision was immediate. They would take the evidence to the police. Whether or not Jamie pressed charges, this had crossed into a crime. I felt faint, with both relief and dread. Relief because I wasn't crazy, dread because I knew this meant detonating what little family remained intact. When Jamie recovered enough to listen, Harry met with him privately. To his credit, Harry didn't push. He told Jamie that regardless of what he chose, he would always be part of our family. But Jamie was resolute. He pressed charges and also filed for divorce. Kayla, cornered by her own deeds, confessed to everything once the police confronted her. She cried, begged, said she had never meant to harm me or the baby, only to scare me, to make me sick, to ruin the day the way she thought I had ruined hers, by announcing my pregnancy before she could share her own. Her words only made the bile rise higher. She had spiked the food with rat poison. She claimed she hadn't expected Jamie to eat it, and that she never wanted real harm done. Her excuses melted in the courtroom. My in-laws, torn between grief and resolve, refused to shield her. My father-in-law told her point blank she needed to own what she had done. My mother-in-law cried but did not cave. Kayla pleaded that she was pregnant herself and begged them to help her for the sake of her daughter. Even then, they held the line. The evidence was clear, the recordings irrefutable. She was convicted of tampering with food, reckless endangerment, and more. She went to prison. Months passed. Jamie visited us leaner, but alive, grateful to be free. He told me over and over it wasn't my fault that he had chosen to take the plate, that none of us could have predicted it. I apologized anyway, the words choking me every time. He smiled with weary kindness, telling me to let it go. My pregnancy progressed under constant watch, my doctor urging me to seek counseling to soothe the creeping paranoia that Kayla's shadow had left behind. I couldn't eat food I hadn't prepared myself. I eyed every plate as though it might be a weapon. Harry supported me through it, reminding me gently that fear was only proof of love. 8 months later, life shifted again. Kayla sat in prison, confessing in court that she had been jealous of me from the moment Harry and I met. She admitted she had always hoped one of her friends would marry him, that she felt betrayed when he chose me. She said she snapped when I announced my pregnancy, convinced we had stolen her moment of joy. The judge dismissed her plea for leniency. Intent is intent, no matter the outcome. Our home, however, filled with new light. Our daughter was born pink-skinned and fierce-voiced, Nate beaming as a proud older brother. Watching him cradle his sister with careful hands softened the sharpest corners of memory. My parents, my in-laws, even Jamie, all stood by us as we celebrated a life that had begun despite the shadows cast over us. I looked at my daughter and saw proof that love, when defended, can outlast even poison. I sometimes wonder when it all truly began, the long unraveling of Kayla's relationship with her brother, with me, with herself. Was it when she realized Harry's parents didn't yield to her pressure to control his love life? When she watched our engagement celebrated while her voice cracked in protest? Or was it something smaller, buried years earlier, festering into obsession? Whatever the origin, by the time the court rendered its judgment, Kayla's envy had swallowed her whole. She had confessed everything under oath, how she resented me for taking her brother, how she never wanted an outsider in the family, how she believed Harry should have married one of her friends. She admitted she dressed in black at our wedding to send a message that she manipulated, lied, and criticized to keep herself at the center of his life. The poison at the birthday party, she claimed, was meant as a scare, a petty strike for stealing what she believed should have been her moment to announce her own pregnancy. She said she had never intended to harm her unborn niece or nephew, only to see me weakened. But intention is only words. The reality was Jamie's convulsing body on the ground, an ambulance shrieking through the garden, and the quiet dread that followed me every time I looked at food. The sentence was years in prison. My in-laws sat stiff in the courtroom, their faces etched with the kind of grief that doesn't make noise. A parent watching their child fall this far is a punishment all its own. My father-in-law told me later he wished he had stepped in earlier, set firmer boundaries, not mistaken her constant meddling for normal sibling concern. My mother-in-law cried over the daughter she had lost in spirit long before the judge's gavel fell. But neither wavered. They did not post bail, did not plead for leniency, did not excuse her. For the first time, they admitted aloud that Kayla was dangerous, not just difficult. Jamie finalized the divorce soon after. I saw in him a man freed, though scarred. He came to family dinners again, smiling faintly when Nate tugged his hand to show him toys. He reassured me with quiet steadiness that I wasn't to blame, that my guilt was misplaced. "You saved yourself," he said once, "and that saved the baby. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Don't carry my pain like it's yours." His words eased me, though I knew some part of me would always replay that night, the handoff of a plate that nearly altered our lives forever. Pregnancy, under such a shadow, was a lesson in balance. My doctor advised therapy, worried my fear would leach into every corner of my life. She was right. I avoided restaurants, eyed potlucks with suspicion washed, and rewound the story in my head at night, until my heart pounded against the mattress. But Harry was there, at every step, reminding me that vigilance could coexist with peace. He made me tea, sat through appointments, placed my hand over the swell of our daughter, and whispered that love was stronger than fear. Slowly, I believed him. When our daughter arrived, it felt like the world exhaled. Nate kissed her forehead with a seriousness beyond his years. My parents hovered with pride, my in-laws with relief, and Jamie stood in the corner, smiling as if he had been given back something he thought he'd lost. Holding my daughter, I felt both gratitude and sorrow that Kayla, locked away, would never see her niece, that she had chosen venom over joy. Yet I also knew that my children were safer without her shadow hovering near. Over time, I came to understand something crucial. People like Kayla thrive on control, on keeping others off balance, on bending narratives until they are the center of gravity. For years, I mistook her cruelty as protectiveness, her insults as insecurity, her manipulation as desperation. I believed if I stayed patient, if I forgave enough, if I extended kindness, she might soften. But her envy was a well with no bottom. No amount of kindness could fill it. Some bonds are not broken by circumstance, they are broken by choice. Harry often says that standing up to his sister finally and completely was like waking from a long dream. He regrets not seeing the pattern sooner, not protecting me more fiercely earlier on. But he also knows that without those years of erosion, we wouldn't recognize the depth of what we have now. Our marriage has been tested by fire, and what survived is stronger than anything I imagined when I first slipped the ring on my finger. The story of Kayla is not only about betrayal and poison. It is about how far envy can drive a person, how blindness to boundaries can corrode families, and how standing firm even when it shatters relationships can protect the lives that matter most. It is about choosing peace over chaos, truth over manipulation, and love over fear. Looking back now, as I watch my son teach his baby sister to stack blocks, I know we endured something dark, but not defining. Darkness leaves scars, but it also sharpens gratitude for the light. Every giggle from my children, every quiet evening with Harry, every family dinner free from drama, is a reminder of what we almost lost and what we refuse to ever risk again. If you stayed with me through this journey, thank you for listening. Please remember to like this video, share it with others, subscribe to the channel, and comment your thoughts below. Your support means more than you know, and I'll be here to share more stories that remind us all of the strength we find in love, even in the face of betrayal.